Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of Thank God It's Flow. In this episode we will learn about business process flows. We will try to see if there are multiple types of business process flows available, what are the possible differences between them, when to use which one. We will also briefly look at the Power Automate family, like as a platform, Power Automate provides you what different types of flows. Coming up right after the intro. Alright, let's start this episode. So before we jump into what are business process flows, let's have a look what's available in Power Automate for us. So I'll move on to next slide, where I've tried to explain it visually on the board, on my slide. So what I'm saying is Power Automate comes up with flows. So on the extreme left, you see my flows. And just connected to that is team flows. Now I haven't separated these two as two different features because I think they are essentially the same, but there is a slight difference. So what you can see under them is that my flows are the flows you own, while team flows are the flows which are shared, or they have more than one owner. Now they are present as two different tabs when you log into your flow.com. Now, but then the functionality or the feature is same, that you've got thousands of templates to create a flow and then you can share it with your team, or you can use it on your own. Number 2 is business process flows, and then you have UI flows, which are the RPAs, robotic process automation. We'll get to that. We'll try to explain that in another episode, not today, but that's definitely one different and distinct feature or flow type. So one flow type is the flow which we pick up from different templates, so we start from blank, and then we've got business process flows, and then we've got UI flows, right? So that's that. Now within business process flows, we've got immersive flows, and I have named it as non-immersive. That's not the it's not the most appropriate name, but I couldn't think of anything else. Like I could have said multiple entity process flow or whatever, but I thought I'll just give it in like immersive, non-immersive. So I said that, although I feel like the original business process flows were quite immersive as well, but this is the new one, is the real immersive experience. Okay, so let me show it to you on flow.microsoft.com. So if I go here, this is what I'm talking about. You've got my flows, you've got team flows, and then you've got business process flows, and then you've got UI flows, which are currently under preview. Now, if I click on new here, right, you get to see a lot of options for flows and business process flow from blank, but not for UI flows. So that's that. Now, in team flows, so what I did is I shared one of my flow with another team member, and it now appears in the team flows. So that's the only difference. The creation of flow remained same. While the other two tabs, they're completely different. Like the way you created, the usage, the features are completely different to the original flow. And that's where we obviously have in other episodes, we have tried to learn about flows. I've also posted some quick tips videos, some other like complicated flows on my channel. So we have definitely learned about flows. Now we need to learn about business process flows, and hence this episode. So going back to my PowerPoint. So we're saying immersive, not immersive, but before we try to find two different type of business process flows themselves, let's see what is a business process flow. So a business process flow is essentially a tool which is provided to users to complete a business process of your organization. So it provides you step-by-step guidance in order to go through the entire stages of a business process. So it's really helpful. What I'll do is I'll provide you some links of my blogs in the description from 2017 and back in 2013 as well, when Business Process Flow were originally launched. So you can read about it more and see how exactly you can create it. But those would be non-immersive. So keep that in mind, but the process remains same except for one step. Now that's a business process flow. Now, if you have used D365, you must know that the header, for quite a long time, it's only been 4 fields on the form header. And then the form body can be quite lengthy, like you might have to scroll a lot. And that's where, if you've got a business process flow and you've got all key fields which are to be filled by users within this business process flow, it's really easy for users to fill it up and move on with the process. So one good example could be lead to opportunity business process flow, where you've got your sales stages and the user is prompted every time that until they have identified decision maker, they cannot move from stage A to stage B. So that's the purpose, but it's really helpful. Like, I like this feature too much. And just because I don't have to scroll through the entire form, even with the new unified interface where the interface is quite good, but still you can have a lot of fields on just one tab. And that's where business process flows can be really helpful for your users from the point of view of saving some time as well. So before we start creating a business process flow, what I will do is I'll try to show you some differences I try to identify. So immersive versus non-immersive. I'll again say non-immersive is not an official term. I've just given it to the original business process flows. So these are the differences. So for immersive business process flows, which is a type of business process flow. So again, I'll go back. So within Power Automate, you've got flow, and then you can share it with a team or a group of users, and that appears under team flows. It's not a type of flow. And then you've got business process flows, and then you've got UI flows, which is RPAs, robotic process automation. Today we are talking about business process flow. Business process flow in itself is divided into 2 different types. And it was done recently. Like, it wasn't like that forever, but recently, probably 2-3 months ago, immersive business process flow were launched. And I think still in preview, but not sure. Anyway, so immersive and non-immersive are the type. I'm calling it non-immersive. You can also call it original business process flows or anything else you might want, or Microsoft might come up with another name. Completely depends. I'm just using that for this video as non-immersive. So CDS entity must exist before creation, or D365 entity. So if you have ever created it, I'll again provide you a link in the description of my few of my blogs which were related to business process flows, so you can see the entire process of how to create it if you're unsure. But an entity must exist in your database in order to create a business process flow. So you must link your business process flow to something. Now, so for example, if I want to create a business process flow, I'll have to select an entity. So it's like a workflow on which entity you want to run it. So you'll have to select lead there. Now with immersive, that's not the requirement. Like, I would say it's like pseudo, or it's partially right. But what happens is, if you select you're going to create an immersive business process flow, you can select no entity, but specify you're going to create an immersive business process flow. Now, as and when you click on next, the system takes a few seconds, because what it's doing is creating whatever name you've given to that immersive business process flow. I think business process flow is getting too long, so I'll just refer it to as BPF. So whatever name you have given to your BPF or immersive BPF, that also creates an entity in the backend, right? So you don't have to first create an entity and then create relevant fields and then go and create a BPF. Rather, you can start from step 3, which is creating a BPF, and that becomes your step 1. In the backend, it creates the entity, all the basic fields like created on, modified on, created by, modified by, active stage, and similar fields, right? So it does that. And then it provides you an option to start adding fields. Now that's not necessary. You don't really have to do that. What you can still do without creating more fields to this backend entity, which just auto-created itself, that you go and create stages for your BPF or immersive BPF, right? And after you've done that, then you can go back to your CDS and start adding fields, and at a later stage you can come back to your immersive BPF and add those fields under steps or data steps within stages, right? That's difference number 1. For non-immersive, you'll have to have an entity. For immersive, you don't, because it gets auto-created. Now, immersive, a model-driven app is not required. So if you are from D365 background, you'll know what a model-driven app is. If not, you might want to Google it or go to docs.microsoft.com and search for it. So model-driven apps are required. So for a non-immersive business process flow, it has to be part of some model-driven app where it has been added as a component. While for immersive, you can just run it from your flow and start entering data or start capturing details and similar things. So model-driven app is not a requirement for immersive BPF. Now, here's a good one where non-immersive becomes much more powerful than immersive. So can have multiple entities in one BPF. Now, again, if you're from the 365 background, you must have seen that a BPF, which is, let's say, lead to opportunity business process flow, it has got 2 entities involved for one BPF. So you're getting it on top, but as in when you qualify a lead, you shift onto opportunity form. So one BPF, but 2 separate entities were involved or were together for this BPF, right? But for immersive, it is supposed to be only that entity which is auto-created in the backend. You cannot select it. Well, if that's the case and somebody's watching and they know that there can be multiple entities involved, do comment in the comment section, because I've tried my best, but I cannot. So while in non-immersive, as I said, phone to case BPF, again, you've got a phone call, you've got case form, again, 2 entities. And you can also do it like, you can create your own BPF or non-immersive BPF, where you can do it lead, opportunity, quote, orders, all together in one BPF. And that gives your users a lot of flexibility and a better user experience. That's not possible with immersive. And I guess that's because they're 2 different type of use cases. When do you want to use it? Okay, in terms of invoking a flow or a workflow from within, immersive or non-immersive business process flow, both of them can do that. In both of them, you can insert Canvas app. Like when I say you cannot insert it in the BPF, but on whatever form the BPF is, immersive or non-immersive, you can still insert Canvas app. So that's not a limitation. I just put it out there. Okay, when to use it? Okay, so this is my point of view, and this is my opinion on this, that when you only know the stages of a BPF and you can't think of any entity in the system which can help you relate to this BPF, that's when you go for immersives, because you don't need an entity. So if, let's say, opportunity, we have got opportunity, there are a lot of fields existing in there. So if something is related to that, I'll go for non-immersive, right? Because a lot of fields already exist related to my sales process or business process. So I'll create a non-immersive. But let's say if customer refund is another example, right? So they ordered something and then they have asked for refund. You do not have any entity for refund. What you can do is quickly create an immersive business process flow where you add your own fields and let them fill it, or you fill it on their behalf. So that's the usage different as for me. And why would be, so BPF is BPF. Why you have to use it, I just try to explain you. But in terms of immersive, it does saves you a bit of time. So as I said, step 1 is creating an entity, step 2 adding fields to an entity, and step 3 was to add a BPF, right? Now in immersive BPF case, you're directly creating a BPF, so step 3. So which means you have skipped step 1 and step 2. So obviously you're saving some time there. So that's that. Now let's go and quickly see what we can do or how we can create it. So we log on to flow.microsoft.com and we click on business process flows. And what I'll do, I'll click on new and I'll say lead to opportunity, although there already exists one, but I've just done it this way. And then I will select lead as a related entity for this, right? And I'll click create. Now I'm going to do this, but that doesn't mean I'm going in a very extensive manner, because as I said, I've got blogs for this and you can read it and get to know about it. I'll just try to do the basic one. Okay, so we've got lead here, and this one is the original BPF, the non-immersive one. So we've got a state. So what we do here, we click here and we name it as, let's say, qualify. That's my stage name, so that will change here, you will see. Category qualify as well, entity lead, and apply. So that changes. Now I'll click on the details and you can see there's a data step. So that's the step where you select your field. If I click here, it gives me option to select a field. So if I go here and let's say address to city, so, and the best thing is the field name can be anything, but you can change the name here. So I can just call it city, apply, and it would appear here. We will look at, so this is the back end of BPF, you're designing it. So this is called the designer for business process flows, but the actual results or the output looks quite good. We will look at it as well. Okay, so data step 1 we have done, and similarly you can keep on doing that. So you can either go to components and drag and drop it like this, or you can hit here, like click somewhere there and add it from here, right? So there are 2 ways to do it, and this is your snapshot of it, so you can see your entire process here. So that's that. So that's how you add data steps. So let me just quickly select more fields here. Sales stage, apply, new step, select another field here, let's say existing contact. And if you want a field to be mandatory, you can just click here and it becomes mandatory. I'll just apply it like this. Now, if I want to stage 2, so I'll say add stage, click here. Now you'll see entity gives me an option. I will select opportunity here and I will say originating lead. You can leave it as none as well, entirely up to you. And I'll name it as opportunity and develop and apply, and just select one field here. This is a list of fields coming from opportunity entity. So that's that, and apply, and that's it. So I've added a stage, I've added a step of data step, and then if you want to add a workflow or a flow, so flow step is in preview, you just have to click there and add it here, and then you'll be able to select one, right? You can select a flow from there. Now, I do not have any flow working on an opportunity, so I can't see it, right? Similarly, I can say add a workflow. And if I go here, it will ask me to select, right? What's the trigger? So you have to select a trigger, and on that trigger you can select workflows. You can only select it for the relevant entity of your stage. So that's that. Now I will delete this step to keep it simple, and I will activate this. Okay, there must be something. Okay, I need to delete this as well. Okay, I've done something wrong. I shouldn't have. Okay, I've deleted this step. Now I'll have to again add it for opportunity. Quickly do it, opportunity. Name it OPP. Originating lead, apply. And then here I will select account and apply. That's it. And then I'll activate this non-immersive business process flow. Once I've done that, so this is now activated. Let me refresh it. Should be active. Okay, it's active now. Now if I click on run, it takes me here. This is the lead form, and you can see this is the lead form. Now I'll quickly add something here. Okay, here, save it. And as and when I save it, you will see that my current stage is qualify. Now, if I click on qualify, right? So as and when I clicked on qualify, my stage moved to OPP, and I'm now on opportunity form. And that's one of the major difference with immersive and non-immersive business process flows. Let me just change this thing. Okay. Right. I've done this so I can show you how to add a business process flow in a model driven app. That's all. So if I go here, so all you have to do is go to settings, then to solution, wherever your model driven app is. So in this case, I don't have any app here, but once you go there, you can click on model driven apps, and you then click, let me just do it, add existing, and I'll say customer service. Okay, so I've added that. Now I double click on that, and then all I need to do is click on business process flow, type or search for my business process flow, non-immersive one, and check mark that and just save. So as and when I do this, save is active, I say save and then publish, right? So that's how you add a business process flow to a model driven app. That's part one. Let's quickly check how to do a non-immersive one. So click on new, and I'll call it as ERD, anything I want to call it, and I'll just select none in entities because I'm going to do an immersive business process. So create. So once I've done that, it's grayed out now because it's creating an entity for this business process flow in the backend or in the database, which is in this case CDS, right? So let's just wait for it and see what happens. I've done this before, it doesn't take that much time. But there might be something wrong with my Wi-Fi today. So let's see how much time it takes. Okay, it's there. So pop-up blocked, and so I'll have to click here and edit. So as and when I click there, it's the exactly same designer, right? You can see the designer is exactly the same. If I click here, new stage, I will say immersive, category, whatever I want, apply. And you can see click to add fields and forms, business rules for this stage's entity. So if I click here, let it be, and then in data step, I will select, let's say, a field and apply, right? So that's that. Now, what it has done is when I click there, so if you remember, so if you're on stage, you click to add fields and forms, it prompts you to add fields and forms, and when I click there, it takes me to the entities backend, and you can add a field from here. Otherwise, you can just continue and add a stage here. Now, this is what I was talking about. Now I've added stage 2, and if you remember the previous BPF, the original one which we did, there was an option to select another entity, but here it's grayed out, so I cannot do it for more than one entity or any other entity than this one, this immersive BPF one. But anyway, UTE, develop and apply. Now this is done, and it's by default, it's activated if you can see that, but I'll have to update it. Okay, because I didn't add any step here, so I'll add active stage, apply, and then I click update. Okay. So the original BPFs are never activated by default. This one is. We saw it. Now if I go and click play, the entity name doesn't exist. Okay. That system must have been very slow because we could not get the name of the entity. Anyway, so this is where all my whatever fields I would add here, I can then add it to the process flow, or I can add it to one of the forms here, right? And they will appear here. So test, and then I can save it. But for this one, you don't really have to add it to a model-driven app. You can just use it just like this. So for example, I gave you an example of refund. Customer wants a refund. You can create this. You can create it for employees onboarding process. You can create it for employees claims and expenses, and processes like that, right? So that's there. If I click on next stage, I move to this. So that's how it's working. Well, something new I just got to see, that stages are actually a lookup. Did you see that too? Yeah. So it's not a text field. It's a lookup. You can click on finish and your business process would be finished. Anyway, I think I tried my best to explain it to you, ending up with this slide here. I hope now you understand the difference between different types of flow available on Power Automate, within which business process flows, we've got immersive and the original ones / non-immersive, as I called it during the video. I also try to tell you about how to include an original BPF in a model-driven app, and what's the difference between immersive and original BPFs, and how can you use it and why you should use it. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to my channel. Have a great day, guys.